Welcome to my next installment in the lecture series for macroeconomics. And in this particular video lecture, I'm going to show you the multiplier effect and do it in a graphical manner. So what you see right here is the typical Keynesian cross diagram that was introduced previously to you. We have the 45-degree line here, and that 45-degree line maps out all the points where aggregate output / aggregate income is equal to aggregate expenditures, i.e. that is all the potential equilibriums that can occur in this macro economy. Also, we have our aggregate expenditures line. So here's our blue aggregate expenditures line, and we see now that we have aggregate expenditures is consumption plus investment. And I have the sub-zeros there because later on I'm going to change the level of investment to see what happens to aggregate output / aggregate income. So as we talked about previously, where the aggregate expenditures line intersects the 45-degree line will give us our equilibrium. So in this instance here, the equilibrium is aggregate output / income is equal to 800, and aggregate expenditures are also equal to 800. So we have an equilibrium here in this particular macro economy. So what we want to take a look at is what will occur to our equilibrium if we have a change. In particular, what happens if autonomous investment changes in our economy here. So let's look at the scenario where the change in autonomous investment is going to be equal to 300. What will occur? What we're going to end up seeing is that, how about that? I left a little dot in there. I hope nobody can see that. Let me get rid of that label. All right. So we have an increase in investment by 300. What is going to occur? We are going to see the aggregate expenditures line shift upward by that 300. So if we take a look, our aggregate expenditures line is going to shift upward by that 300 that we talked about previously. So vertically, the aggregate expenditures line is going to shift upward. This is going to be the new aggregate expenditures line. And we can see here that now I have it labeled as AE1 equals roughly equivalent to C plus I1. And the I1 and the sub ones are to indicate that we have a change, and in here we have a change in investment by 300. So that change in investment is going to cause the aggregate expenditures curve to shift upward by that amount, by the 300. So what's going to occur? Well, now we have a new aggregate expenditures line. We are going to have a new equilibrium. So the new equilibrium is going to occur where the new aggregate expenditures line is going to intersect the 45-degree line. And if we bring up the next slide, we can see here that that gives us a new equilibrium of aggregate output and aggregate income of 1,600, and aggregate expenditures are also equal to 1,600. So the point of this was to illustrate to you that by an autonomous change of 300 in investment causes income to increase by a larger amount than that. Causes it to increase by 800. So that is what is meant by the multiplier effect. If there's an autonomous change in spending, and in this example here we are talking about an increase in investment by 300. That increase in investment by 300 will actually cause a multiple increase in income. As you can see here, that $300 increase in investment causes incomes to go up by 800. That is what is meant by the multiplier effect, that any autonomous change in the economy and spending will lead to a multiple increase in income. And the reason for this is, and you have to remember that when we spend, so investment is going to be investment spending, that investment spending becomes somebody else's income. They take a portion of that income and they spend it. So that spending becomes somebody else's income. Then they take that income and they spend this portion of it. Realize that multiple rounds of spending, the amount of spending that occurs gets smaller and smaller each round of spending until it gets down to zero. So because of that, we end up seeing a multiple increase in income because of an autonomous increase in spending.